Okay, so you worked in a slaughterhouse, didn't you? So tell us a bit about that, please.
Well, I'm not going to tell you where it is. And the main thing that you find from that whole experience is the way it affects people. Like when you look at the killing and the people who do it day to day, it's like for the amount that needs to be produced, for the amount of murder that happens, that leaves psychological effects on people. It's like the people who worked there, 100-yard stairs, barely spoke to people, very solemn place, stunk of murder.
And do you see any moral justification for doing that as a job, or in general for the animals themselves?
Well, when it comes down to killing, because that's what we're talking about, isn't it?
Yeah.
Talking about murder. Suffering, no. And, you know, the way that things happen in places like that, it's traumatic for both the animal and the person. You know, it's the distress, the smell, the lingering effect of when you go home and it's in your clothes. You know.
It's like a very negative experience.
Yeah, it's a very negative experience. Like when they used to do the cows, get like a trough for the innards. I was in there on an agency doing the cleaning from 12 o'clock midnight into the morning. And then there was the day shift, which you do near the evening when they were finishing up. And you know, you're talking about all the stuff that they wouldn't use and the stuff they just put into buckets for the recycling, for, you know, like stuff like wieners and you know, like bit meat products.
Like the worst meat possible.
Yeah, the worst meat possible. Like hot dogs. You know what a hot dog's made out of? It's all like lips, tits, hooves, feet, whatever's left over.
Well,
that's a hot dog.
As well.
Yeah, it's bones, the gelatin, right down to the dust, man. You know?
It's just gross, like, because obviously that's the worst thing people can eat. It's the worst part. The animals, like cancerous parts, and saying lips and all that. So how effective would you say stunning was on animals when you saw other people doing it and when you did it yourself?
They say it's instantaneous, but animals still look sound. You know, so you can't tell from their perspective. But it's not like, yeah, I'm happy. You know what I mean? It's the exact opposite. And it's like, you know, like in Silence of the Lambs when they talk about the sheep. You know, like.
Well, I've not seen it.
Well, but they have this whole script about the sheep where, you know, like, can hear them, Clarice? Can you hear them? You know, because it's based on the slaughterhouse, I believe. But it's that sound. It's like when you hear something, like hunters will know it, and you know that sound when it dies. You know, it's not a nice experience.
Okay. So you're not a vegan yourself? So
No, I'm not a vegan myself.
So, like, how do you feel you can morally justify killing an animal in general?
To get things straight, I am not an advocate of murder, but to do it to survive, like if you were hunting and living off the land,
yeah.
I wouldn't object to that because it's a matter of survival. But we live in a society where everything is provided, packaged in a nice little thing for $2.99 from Sainsbury's, you know what I mean? So, you know, you're not out there sticking the knife in it, are you? So, you know, and even when you hunt, and I have hunted, it is a somber experience. I found it very somber. It made my sister vegetarian.
Would you say there's any suffering involved with hunting?
Of course, of course. It's like if I stuck a knife in you. You know, it's like, is there any suffering involved in that? You know, it's meat, it's bone, it's conscious.
So if we can avoid unnecessary suffering, do you think we can, or do you think we should avoid it?
I think unnecessary suffering should be avoided. However, it's ingrained so deeply in society right now, of the with the convenience of the murder, because that's what it is. It's convenient murder, so you get your steak and chips at the end of the day after a nice hard day's work. It's so convenient. Plus the fact, like, people aren't educated enough in different dietary substitutes. They're not educated enough, and I'm a meat eater, and I'd say this about myself, I'm not educated enough in different dietary substitutes that you could use to stop this. But that comes down to education and willing to be educated, because people in society just go, well, I'm busy, I've got my kids, I've got to pick up my kids from school, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, I've got to, what, your day-to-day business. And then, the last thing you're thinking about is what you're going to be sticking in your mouth, right down to the point that you're out 3 times a week buying fucking McDonald's. Pardon my swearing. And they're the worst of the worst,
Yeah, because it's like the worst food possible. I mean,
well, I'm not talking about the families. I'm talking about McDonald's. You can't blame somebody for building a habit, and when they build that habit, if somebody keeps on feeding that habit, then they're never going to break that habit. So let's say you're raised eating meat like me. I was raised with a granddad, a hunter. He's the one who taught me how to hunt. When you're raised in a society like that, you get the taste of murder. Because
like bloodlust.
Yeah, you get the bloodlust, because ask any vegetarian that's ever caved, what's made them cave? It's that smell of bacon. You know what I mean? Most of the people that I've spoken to who have caved from vegetarian, it's always the bacon. And it's one of the most produced meats in England. One of the highest sold meats in England. You can go into anywhere and get a BLT sandwich.
Yeah, and it's addictive as well, isn't it?
It's salt.
The drugs that's in it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's literally one of the unhealthiest things.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's, the things that want it to be addictive in the first place, but they feed to the animal.
Yeah.
So what would you say would stop you from going vegan?
Well, it's like, I've spoken to a lot of vegans, and no offence people, but, and I shouldn't really say no offence, because that means I'm going to say something offensive, but it's the aggression. I understand that you feel for the animals, I really, really do, because I've seen it firsthand. I've had to do it myself with these hands. But people are going to shut off if you keep on being aggressive. Like, look at me, I don't like murder. But has anybody shown me an alternative? So, where was I? Yeah. If you attack somebody who eats meat, and verbally, if you approach and you engage somebody and you're like, you're the murderer, you're the person who killed him, you condone it, that sort of stuff, then the person you're approaching is never ever going to see your point of view. If you come at them that they're the enemy, like if our friend here came at me, with all that rhetoric, I wouldn't be sat here talking to him like I am. I wouldn't be talking to the camera for this thing, But if you approach with an educational point of view, give the alternative, show them good cuisine, show them that living healthy is good, you know what I mean? Give them the alternative, plus the fact some people won't even care about the suffering of animals, but if you give them a tastier alternative, if you give them an educational point of view into how they can improve their lifestyle, then you're saving the animals by proxy,
So, have you ever thought about becoming a sound vegan like me?
Mainly lack of education, and the vegans that I have met haven't given me anything educational in just abuse. Apart from my friend Lewis, and we've debated it a couple of times together. but so far I'm still a meat eater.
Okay. So how do you feel about the environment and the planet?
Oh, that's a whole different kettle of fish.
Well, it is linked to it because
Yeah.
animal agriculture is the main cause of deforestation, greenhouse gases,
Exactly.
ocean death,
Well,
pollution.
the problem you're fighting there is like you're going up against multi-corporations. You know, like how I spoke to you earlier about McDonald's, you know, the family going to McDonald's 3 times a week. You know how convenient and cheap is for you. Well, you'll be complaining 40, 60, 80 years down the line when you're struggling to breathe and they're selling you oxygen in a fucking bottle. And I swore for the point there.
Yeah, and it's the same thing with the environment. It's like they believe the ocean's going to be completely fishless by 2048.
Yeah,
That'll
well,
kill everything.
It's down to the governments and corporations, because you look at, you know, like the bio waste that we are dumping out into those oceans, the fact that we're still polluting that way, the fact that we've lost a load of it over the last 10 years, you know, and this shit, if it gets into the oceans, that wipes out all ocean life. You know, that could possibly wipe out coastal life, make it dangerous to live there yourselves with radiation, and that sounds conspiracy theory nut job kind of stuff, but it's
true.
Right?
Yeah, it is.
You know what I mean? You can go and search it on the internet, go and look it up. Uranium, plutonium, the things that we use for nuclear power, the waste that it causes, and how we deal with it. And the only reason that is dealt with badly is because they're just pinching pennies, greed. And that's the battle you're fighting.
Okay, you were saying about, like, it has to be the government that changes things.
Yeah, it has to be government.
But when we look all through history, it's always been activists that have changed society. It's always been the people that change society. Say, like, with black...
I'll just stop you there for a second, because this comes back to the argument we were having about attack. Pick your battles, make your friends. Because, like, if you want to change things, it's generally done through either a discussive resolution, a peaceful resolution and revolution to get there by changing the minds of a lot of people all at once. However, to do that is an incredibly hard thing to do, and it often leaves martyrs in its wake. And that's the problem with revolution. To change the mind of a lot of people, to change the government's mind, well, that's not always a good thing, especially if you allow that total freedom, because you're only as free as they tell you are. And, you know, look at our voting system, look at the way that the politics works in our country, look at the disabled people who are getting messed over because of these changes, because they're penny pinching because of austerity. Look at how we got there in the first place. Look at, you know, the things that our government thinks about are all in the wrong places. That's the main problem.
That's the point I'm making, you know? To make change of the governments of society, we have to change ourselves. Right?
Yeah, well, it's down to the choice, and that, like I was saying, was about the attack. If you go out and treat everyone like the enemy who eats meat, you're never going to change any of their minds. And that revolution is like a little thing that flips around in your head, and you can sit at home until you're 140 and die yourself. That's wishful thinking, 140, but, you know, and die yourself, doing nothing about it. Because without allies, you're never going to win a, you know, like, a war of perspective, a war of beliefs, you know?
Yeah. So, okay, you were saying about aggressive vegans putting you off veganism before.
Not putting me off veganism, it just shuts me down. Yeah. It's like if someone walks up to me in the street and calls me a knobhead, then I'm not going to engage him in polite conversation, am I?
No.
That's the point.
Okay, so now you know some sound vegans.
Yeah.
You probably will for a while.
Yeah.
What would you say puts you off veganism rather than just the people themselves? Like the
lack of education.
Yeah,
lack of education, because, you know, a lot of the argument is always put on the suffering of the animals, and I agree, the suffering of animals, I've seen it firsthand, you know, and I don't mean to make light of it, but I don't want to repeat myself, so yeah. Animals, right? When it's a multifaceted thing. You know, like when people go vegetarian, they go, I don't agree with it, so I will change my lifestyle because I don't agree with it.
Yeah.
And they don't necessarily attack people in the way that they communicate.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
You know what I mean?
I call them apologists.
Yeah. So if you get to a point when you do go full vegan, if you're trying to convert someone, it's like, mate, show them food that's so goddamn tasty that they've got no goddamn choice.
Okay, so
you know?
would you say you're against animal cruelty then?
Yeah, I am against the cruelty. I'm cruelty as a whole. I'm against.
But
Be it psychological or physical.
But isn't hunting cruelty? Because like you were saying before, like they do suffer, and that's what will turn your sister vegetarian.
Yeah. It's like when I was young and I was taught to hunt, I was told that don't take pleasure from it and eat what you kill.
Yeah.
You know, so you don't kill anything that you don't have the intention of eating. If you're killing for pleasure, well, that person needs to be locked up, because those type of people are called serial killers when they start doing it to people.
But isn't taste pleasure?
Taste is a pleasure, but it is also a necessity to drive you to actually fill your belly so you don't starve yourself to death.
But do we need to eat animals to survive and not starve to death?
No, there's other alternatives.
So
it's just that those other alternatives aren't widely taught, because the argument always ends up on the animals.
So by your philosophy and your logic, isn't avoiding hunting and meat and dairy and all those other things just like the logical way of thinking, like avoiding suffering towards animals and cruelty?
The tough one. Okay. So, if I had the choice not to cause suffering, would I cause suffering? Well, it's like when you think of conditioning, and the analogy of a piece of bacon every morning on a piece of toast, and your mum gives you that for like your entire life up until you move out of home, then you know you're gonna have to taste the murder, aren't you? You're gonna have to taste the bacon. You're gonna want that. You're addicted to it. It's the taste. It's the smell. It's the whole thing. It's the memory of your mum making it for you. You know what I mean? Now you've got to break that type of programming.
Yeah.
If you want that type of suffering to stop, because like if you think about all the animals that are in, say, like an abattoir, how many people out there are thinking, oh, my dinner came from a murdered cow today? You know what I mean? They don't think about it. They don't even, like, my sister, when she was 4 years old, called all meat chicken. She had no differential between any of the different types of meat. She just used to call it chicken.
Yeah, like I had to break that cycle, because you don't look at it as the animal, do you?
Yeah, you don't see it, and that's another reason. Like, have you ever thought of why bacon's called bacon when it comes from a pig? Why is beef called beef when it comes from a cow? It's the breaking away from the association of animal to food product.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So you were saying, I asked that question, you were saying about people being conditioned.
Yeah, the conditioning of it.
So are you saying for you personally, it's conditioning? It's
breaking the conditioning, yeah. It's a matter of taste and education. Because, like, you know, if you're going to replace that tasty taste of bacon, you got to replace it with something that's going to bring you pleasure when you eat. Because if you're not getting the pleasure from eating, you're going to, you know, the healthy alternative. You're not going to be able to break the addiction that you have to the taste and the pleasure you derive from eating the other alternative.
Okay, so like after this, do you want me to write down like a bunch of tasty videos?
Yeah. I'll try out some stuff. Yeah, I'll do that for you if you want me to. Yeah, because I'm interested.
Yeah.
You know, because like if you come at me with an educational point of view and you go, hey, here's some suggestions, what yada yada yada, I'm going to go away and try that. I'm going to go away and have a look at it, because you know, why not?
Yeah.
You know?
So do you think you'll try veganism?
As a whole, I'll try what's on offer. I'll get a basic education on what is available to me, whether I can break my own self-conditioning from, you know, the meat eating of my life.
Yeah.
That's another thing, because that's where the struggle is. It's an addiction at the end of the day.
Yeah, it took me at least I'm all just to go vegetarian. And veganism was easier though for me. I don't know why, but so you,
I think that's because you've already tried vegetarianism. I've tried vegetarianism when I was dating a girl back in my youth, and I managed to stay vegetarian for about a year and a half. It was bacon that made me cave. But as a whole, I eat generally a lot of pasta and vegetables rather than the meat anyway. You know, I eat meat around about 3 times a week, 3 meals.
yeah.
You know, because you get most of your carbs and stuff from the pasta and the vegetables and minerals.
Yeah. So you're gonna have a go at hacking it then?
Hacking it. You only asked me to do the interview today.
No, I mean because you're saying you'll try it.
Yeah, I'll try it. I'll try it because, like, if the alternative is tasty enough and I eat it and I'm like, wow, this is good, then why not stop the suffering?
Yeah. Hey, thanks for this interview. I hope you do actually go vegan. Obviously, like, you know, it's up to you, but I want you to do it.
I'll try. I'll try it out.
Alright, Sal. Cheers, mate.